Hello from London. This is my kitchen. The reason we are shooting this video at my kitchen is because I'm gonna start talking about health. I have a lot of videos on health, on functional breathing, on Breath Hub channel. So if you want to learn more about how you can stay healthy and well through practicing daily breath work, how you can analyze your breathing and check how you're breathing and start a customized journey so that you can have a functional, healthy breath, because breath is the way to health. Invest in your breath, invest in your health, then you can download Breath Hub and watch my videos on Breath Hub YouTube channel. Today, before I start my first video on health, because there will be more videos coming on health, I wanna speak more about death. Because life and death looks like they are opposites, but they're actually the same thing. Our body stays healthy and well. Sustainable health and well-being is only possible when our body's functions of reproduction, life, giving life, reproducing and regenerating equals to death, the dying of our cells. Because some of our cells need death and some of our cells need that regeneration. And there are many problems we will be experiencing many problems if our cells keep on regenerating. And in this video, I'm going to talk about that. What happens when our cells keep on regenerating itself? What happens when we hold on to life too much, which is the main problem of today's world, and the importance of death. And I'm going to ask you a question. Is death necessary? Is death evil or necessary, beneficial or superficial, or is it real, or is it a programming that limits our lifespan? Is it a DNA programming? What is death and why is it there, and why is it so important? Why is it so needed for us to reach to a sustainable health and well-being? So the first question is death necessary? Is it an acquired trait? You may think of death as unavoidable. Maybe you think that it is unavoidable, you must die, and you might also be believing that all things must die or all things are dying. And it of course makes your mortality easy to bear, but scientifically proven, single cell forms called amoebas live forever. They necessarily don't ever die. They can beat the odds, and indeed every surviving amoeba on Earth has been alive for billions of years. So there are species right now on Earth which do not die. They go on living forever. So when you look at death, death is only inevitable for multi-celled life forms like humans. It is not inevitable as an evolutionary trait, because there are single cells that live forever. Your death may be a competitive advantage diverged by this multi-celled life forms. But if your death is something that your distant ancestors created, so if it was created in your mind hundreds of years ago, genetically in our system, and if it's not necessarily evil, if it helped them to survive and to effectively compete with the immortal species, then death might be necessary, not evil, but beneficial. So when you look at the body, as some of you might know, and if you don't know, I suggest you research on it, there are death genes in our body, in our DNA programming, and they are very much necessary. They limit our lifespan, so we eventually die, and these are something that makes our dying so much predictable than random accidents or otherwise, other things. And the evidence is all around us. So when you look at insect species, they live for a season. When you look at dogs, they live for 10 to 15 years. You may live from 6 to 100 years without any accidents, without any illnesses. I'm talking about the natural cause. And possibly your environmental or anatomical constraints also determine your lifespan, and you can live 7 years plus if your DNA tells you to. When you look at death, there is no sequence on your 4th chromosome that may stop your cells from living and dividing infinitely. So we are not like one-celled organisms. A death gene works on controlling cancer, and also controlling the death of our cells, because that death is very much needed. When you look at cancer, when you look at cancer cells, they have various alterations that keep them alive, that keep them to divide beyond the lifespan. So the cells that are cancer cells, the people who have cancer, have cells that keep on dividing, that do not die, that has been altered. So cancer is kind of like an alteration in our death gene, and people who have cancer, their cells keep on dividing and keep on living, and they don't die. That's why they have cancer. And when you look at why that happens, I have worked with a lot of cancer patients, I have worked with a lot of people who have cancer, and I have helped many of them actually get well in a couple of months. When you look at people who have cancer, their thoughts, their thinking habits, we see that they have been too attached to life. When you look at their breathing habits, because I'm a behavioral expert and also a breathing behavior expert, a thinking behavioral expert, I've been researching, studying breathing behaviors and thinking behaviors over 20 years. I see that with all the research and study, I see that our breath, breathing in, equals to taking in life. Breathing out, exhaling, equals to dying, death. So we literally get born with every breath we take in, and we die with every breath out. And our whole body system, our cells regenerate, our cells renew themselves when we breathe in functionally. If you're not breathing in functionally, if you have problems with your inhale, if you have problems with taking in your breath, for example, if you have a shallow breathing habit, for example, if you're not using the diaphragm as you should, for example, if you're using the diaphragm too much or not too much or less, then you have problems breathing in. Your cells do not regenerate themselves. Your cells, if you don't have any problem with your exhale, with your breath out, your cells keep on dying, but they don't regenerate, and that causes some problems as well. And that is the opposite of holding on to life. That is letting life go, wanting to die, not breathing in, and you have all kinds of habits and you have all kinds of symptoms with that. When you look at cancer, and when you look at stress, when you look at anxiety, when you look at panic attack, when you look at sleeping disorders, the reason why people can't calm down, the reason why people can't sleep, the reason why they have hypertension, all that problem is because they are holding on to life too much. They are breathing in too much. They are usually what we call, as breathing experts, performance breathers. They are breathing in too much. They lost their capability of dying. They lost their capability of letting go. So they have problems with breathing out. They have problems with the exhale. They are mostly holding on to the exhale. And when you look at their thinking habits, they hold on to life too much, and they have distorted perceptions about death. They have distorted perceptions about dying, and that's why they can't relax. Because for you to fully relax and calm down, you need to learn how to die. And with that, if your exhale is relaxed, if you worked on your mind, if you transformed your mind, and I help hundreds of people to transform their minds, especially who have distorted perceptions on life and who have distorted perceptions on death, I have hundreds of them. And I've seen that when you have distorted perceptions about life and when you're holding on to life too much, what happens is you experience a joy of living. So people are too joyous about life. People are too sad. Most people right now are too sad about death. They think death is bad. They think life is better, and they try to hold on to life. They do whatever they can to not to die. That leads to not being able to relax, that leads to not being able to calm down, that leads to a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, panic attack, many more symptoms and illnesses, and top of that, that will eventually lead to cancer. Because with that thought, if you are holding on to life too much, if you gave a lot of meanings to life, if you like life and living too much, that's a distorted perception. And if you're holding on to life too much, you won't be able to relax, calm down, but also in the end, eventually, your cells will keep on regenerating because you have more life than death in your system, and it will end up as cancer. And scientifically, cancer cells have various alterations that keep them alive and that allow them divide well beyond their lifespan. So when your cells keep on dividing and keep on regenerating, keep on renewing itself, you have cancer. And it may be caused by this alteration of death gene, and it may well be caused because people choose to go beyond their destiny or beyond their existing path with the illusion of, I have a choice. Do we really? And then what happens when you go beyond your path, your life, your lifespan? If you give a lot of meaning to life, you will end up with addictions, because people who can't relax, who are holding on to their exhale, who don't have relaxed exhales, they can't relax. They have sleeping disorders and they have relaxation problems, and then they have addictions because they can only relax with drugs or alcohol and this and that. And without cellular death, if there is no cellular death in your system, complex multi-celled life cannot exist. So death helps life to compete, and maybe your need to overcome death is your only problem. Not really understanding what death is and trying to fight with it instead of embracing it and loving it. Programmed cell and organism death has something in common with sex as well. So when you look at sex and the programmed cell and organism death, they are both fundamental to life. Nearly all higher plants and animals use them, and so the evidence is very strong scientific evidence that they are highly useful competitive tools. Sure, when you look at sex, it may be perceived to be pleasant, but death is perceived as unpleasant because many people give a lot of meaning to life and reproduction and a lot of meaning to death. But when you think about it, both sex and death are unselfish acts that inconvenience you for the benefit of your species. So they are both needed. Sex, reproduction, producing, renewal, and dying, they are both needed for our species. And as much as you think you enjoy sex, you might wonder whether your 20 years of parental service is a cost worth your 5 minutes of pleasure. Think about it. I'm a mother and I have been dedicating my life over 21 years to my 2 daughters, and just because of a 5 minutes of pleasure. Your sex and its consequences are enjoyable because rewards work better than punishment in our system, in our lives, and your genes know that. And your DNA is kind of like the soul of your life, and your DNA actually remains immortal. So there is a part of us that stays immortal because our DNA goes on and on living. Your death may be genetically programmed rather than inevitable, and your death may also allow your DNA patterns to more successfully survive and evolve. If you die unhealthy, then your DNA, what is everlasting, might be distorted, and then you might not be able to pass it on. It's like when you look at someone who has cancer, when you look at someone who has been holding on to life too much, and when you look at that distorted cells that keep on dividing and that keep on renewing itself, and if you're dying of cancer, you have nothing left in your DNA to pass on to your children or to your grandchildren. But if you have that balanced life and death in your system, if you have a balanced breathing, if you have a healthy breathing habit, if you have a balanced mindset, then you can pass on that DNA and your DNA can live forever. So basically, your death may allow your DNA patterns to more successfully survive and evolve over the years. And if you knew that it was bad for you, and more than that, very dangerous for your society, for your children, for your loved ones, would you eliminate death if you could? Probably not. Think of it. Life is an evolutionary journey, and humans who lived on Earth 100 years ago wouldn't be able to survive the environment of today. For example, when you look at air, when you look at the gases in the air hundreds of years ago, if we were able to go back in time, if we got your body, yourself, and threw you back 100 years ago, you wouldn't even survive for a couple of minutes because you would be intoxicated by the air you breathe, you wouldn't be able to survive. And when you get back hundreds of years ago and bring one of the people who lived over there, they wouldn't be able to survive, because even the air changed, everything changed, and they would be so toxic and such a waste and so harmful and so neurotic in this environment. It would be so much, it would be so bad for our environment today. Your whole body, thoughts, and your overall programming is perfect for the period you live in right now. But it won't make any good after that. And that's why we live maximum 110 years, whatever. It would be a waste. You would be a waste. If you were able to live 200 years, you would be a pure waste. It would be so harmful and you would be so neurotic. Would you like that for the next generation, for your grandchildren? The next generations are programmed for life after us. They are programmed for the next 100 years. Not you or I. We are not programmed for the next 100 years. If we stayed there, we would be so destructive. So, as destructive as it is, that is also the soul of human motivation. Think of it. It's like, okay, if there wasn't any death, if there wasn't any dying, would you strive for anything in life? We are all part of an ecosystem. Like I have, a few years, a couple of years probably, to do all the projects I want to finish, all the projects I want to finish. So it is our main motivation. Our physical body builds and destroys itself constantly, and that's a perfect balance. And just as our physical body is subspecies of a macro system that lives outside, it is also a super species of a micro ecosystem that lives inside. And your physical body contains and maintains an equilibrium of microorganisms that produce, compose, and build, as well as consume, deconsume, and destroy. When you look at your body, actually a complete independent food chain exists within you, and it's all balanced. As the teachings of the Trimurti of ancient Hinduism, whereas there are three deities in one: Brahma, creator; Vishu, the maintainer; and Shiva, the destroyer, so too in your physical body and life. There exists three aspects in life: life, death, and eternity. In your body, there is death, there is life, there is eternity. The eternal one is your soul, life and death is your body, the eternity is in your DNA. It keeps on going, it keeps on evolving, it keeps on surviving. Your physical body depends on building, maintaining, and destroying microorganisms for its evolution, and without bacteria and viruses, your physical body and yourself wouldn't be able to evolve. So think of it. If you weren't able to die, if your cells weren't able to die, if there wasn't bacteria and viruses, your physical body wouldn't be able to evolve. So instead of maybe running away from those viruses and bacteria or thinking death is bad, maybe it's time to embrace death. Maybe it's time to check our exhale, let go of the exhale so that we can relax a bit. Because with every breath in, we breathe in life. With every breath out, we die, we relax, we calm down. And as you breathe in, you breathe out. As you live, as some of your cells live, some die. As you reproduce, produce, you also die. And that's the perfect balance of life, and that's perfect health. I have had a lot of people come to my seminars who were stuck with the idea of health, of course, very sick. Because the more stuck you are with health, the more healthy you want to get, the more it will affect your whole body, because your cells regenerate too fast or your cells renew themselves, and because you can't die, you start having a lot of health problems. And the people who have health problems, most of my students and most of my friends who were stuck to health. So the more you want to become healthy, the more unhealthy you get, because health is not just having life in your system, it is also having death in your system. Perfect health, holistic health, depends on how well your body can renew, can reproduce, can produce, and also how well it can die. The death genes in your body as well as the life genes in your body matter. Yeah, so for a balanced, sustainable health and well-being, I think first of all, working on our breath is very important, and I suggest Breath Hub app, because you can't find hundreds of more than 800 sessions and professional recorded guided sessions and courses in any other app, and you can't find the breathing analysis algorithm where you can download the app and have your breathing analyzed, check what you're doing wrong, and start a customized journey. There are no other apps, there are no other breathing apps that offer anything like that, anything as the Breath Hub's breathing analysis system, the breathing analysis algorithm, which can analyze your breathing habits, which can tell you what you're doing wrong and create a customized journey for you with sessions you need to have a healthy breathing habit. And also there are hundreds of breathing sessions you can choose from, so that you can balance the inhale and exhale, so that you can balance the breath out, the breath in, the death cells and the life cells, and reach to a sustainable health and well-being. If you like my videos, please click on like and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will see you in my next video, continuing in my kitchen.